The Chinese government has announced that married couples may now have up to 3 children. A change in policy following decades of restrictions that have resulted in a rapidly aging society. It was in 1979 that China, fearing a population explosion, first implemented a one-child policy. It included forced sterilizations, led many parents to abort their baby girls, and began a steep decline in births that has continued for decades. Now, the government raised that limit to 2 children in 2016, but to little effect. One reason is that there are fewer young women relative to men. Meanwhile, women are pursuing careers and childcare remains expensive in cities. Now, China's fertility rate is now just 1.3 children per woman. The number needed for the population to maintain its size is 2.1. At the same time, people are living longer. A combination of a shrinking labor force on the one hand and the rising cost of elderly care on the other could also have a profound impact on the world's second largest economy.
China needs more children. The latest census shows a steep decline in birth rates. For decades, couples were allowed just 1 child. In 2016, the limit was raised to 2. In the future, couples can have up to 3 children. But many, especially in large cities like Shanghai, can't afford to raise several kids, so there's skepticism about the new policy. If the conditions were right, we'd have more kids. Nowadays, young people have to buy a house. There's already a lot of pressure. And then you have to consider the cost of the child's education and other things. I think this sort of policy will face difficulties. Last year, only 12 million children were born in China. That's not enough to stop the demographic trend and counter the aging population. Even analysts believe Beijing's policy shift is unlikely to achieve much success.
Unless the government introduces real incentives, so providing special allowances to couples who have 3 children, like reduction for transportation and other incentives, I don't think that Chinese couples are going to have more kids in the coming years.
The Chinese government has yet to announce any major incentives to bolster birth rates.
Lauren Johnson is a research associate with the SOAS China Institute in London. She's currently in Berlin, and that's where she joins us from. Lauren, good to have you on the show again. What is the risk for China with its current demographic course?
I guess the risk is that the total fertility rate stays very, very low into perpetuity, which basically means at some point in future, Chinese people would become extinct. However, in terms of the contemporary economy, because China's low total fertility rate is partly a result of government policy, the one-child policy was mentioned earlier. In fact, China's been planning for this period for decades and decades. So there are certainly risks of not being able to manage the upside-down population pyramid, but it's not necessarily a disaster. Like, there are also challenges to having a population that grows infinitely.
But right now, if we are looking at trying to boost the birth rate, this policy says, all right, you may have 3 children. I would imagine it's not as simple as that. What are the biggest hurdles for families to increasing their family size?
Yeah, sure. I also already mentioned were the costs, just the cost of housing, the costs of schooling, the costs of, all the other essentials or middle-class essentials that go with raising a child. And of course, this generation of parents, also it's the kind of upside-down pyramid generation. So they've got their 4 parents to take care of and then the children. So they've got kind of pressures from both ends. So it's, and on top of which, China's not really that different to many other countries where the total fertility rate has fallen below the replacement level for a number of reasons. So is China special? Maybe its total fertility rate fell at earlier per capita income levels than happened in Japan and so on. But in fact, you see this already in Vietnam, Thailand, Turkey, Brazil. Really, like, the total fertility rate is falling at lower and lower per capita incomes. So the challenge, if countries don't want ultimate population decline, is, indeed, then to very clearly work out what those issues are and make life a lot easier for families.
All right. We'll have to leave it there. Lauren Johnson, she's a research associate with the SOAS China Institute, in London. Thank you.
Thank you.